What is up, everyone? Brandon Ferst, aka First Report, representing the First Off the Bench podcast network. Everyone comes off the bench. We are first. Welcome in to the first week of the NFL Weekly here on the network. We break down everything the NFL has to offer from a betting angle. Of course, we've made it through the long slog that is summer, but with me to help break down this week and, of course, going forward is my friend and co-host, Mr. Raider Jim Martinez. You can find Mr. Martinez at Raider Jim 1090. How you doing tonight, sir?
Football season. What can I say? Labor Day is behind us. I'm counting down to Christmas shopping and all that good stuff. Wow.
It's a little early for the C word there, Raider Jim, but I will allow it. I also want to give props to Raider Jim as well, fighting through some technology stuff. So his video might be a little different than normal, but he's here. And unless you knew sign language, it was the only way we were going to all get together today. But it is, of course, time to look at, as of course, we are recording here on the 2nd of September. Hope everyone had a fantastic Labor Day. And of course, Labor Day means two things. Essentially, kind of the unofficial end of summer and the beginning of football season is pretty much for the last 5, maybe 10 years. I'm not sure, but the NFL season's unofficial week has been Labor Day week, and it's time to break down some of the games we have coming up. But before we get to that, of course, look, the Cowboys cannot allow the season to start without making sure they make some waves. And it was really all off season. Well, maybe not all off season. I should say maybe for the last month. Micah Parsons came out about a month ago, 6 weeks ago, and essentially said, look, it's not working. I would like to be traded. Myself, I kind of thought, okay, this is negotiations. We even saw it in Cincinnati. We saw it in Washington. Terry McLaurin signs with the Commanders after the holdout. Aiden Hutchinson gets a raise, but not a long-term extension. So I guess everyone's happy there. Maybe. But anyways, I thought we were going to go that way. But last week we get the news. Jerry Jones pulls the trigger, 2 first-round picks and defensive tackle Kenny Clark heading to Dallas for Micah Parsons, a 26-year-old Micah Parsons. Now, I will put a little caveat on there. Apparently, Micah Parsons dealing with a little bit of a back issue, dealing possible epidural this week, I should say. But look, obviously the Packers aren't terribly worried about it, or else they wouldn't have made this trade. But just wanted to throw that out there. Raider Jim, your thoughts on, I would say the biggest defensive trade since, I hate to bring it up, but Khalil Mack going to.
Oh, yeah.
That's the best parallel I can think of. But your thoughts, Raider Jim.
Yeah, well, I will tell you, you hit on the point that I was going to start with, and that is, I don't know if this is a good move for anybody. I appreciate Micah Parsons. I think he's great. If you told me he was going to be going over to the Las Vegas Raiders, I'd have probably been a little bit excited about it until you find out he has to pass a physical, which is not a problem. Everybody has to pass the physical, but he has an injured back. That's an integral part of any human being, let alone a guy that's going to go out there and get banged around the way these linemen do, or any player gets banged around. And I don't know, I don't see him making 5-6 games before he's not going to be able to play for Green Bay. You used the word epidural, and boy, if that's the case, I don't want that. I don't want a needle in my spine, and then you're not going to get me to go out there and get bounced around by a bunch of 300-pound guys. So I think all in all, this is just not, it's big, but it's kind of like, it makes you go, come on. There was an article today, and unfortunately I didn't have time to read it before we hit record here, but it is an article by Jerry Jones explaining why the Cowboys for several years have just not hired a general manager. Jerry, we all know why. You would not entertain having a GM telling you, butt out. So I got to go back and read that. But 2024, the Cowboys lost Dak, for a good part of the season. 2024, the defense for the Cowboys was not that good, greatly underperformed. And now they're going to go back in and they don't have Micah Parsons. That's bad. They do have a lot of defensive ends, but who knows how good that they're really going to be. They've got Dante Fowler, Sam Williams, Marshawn Nealon, James Houston, and they've got this rookie, Donovan Ezeraku, but he's unproven. Nobody knows. So what they're relying on at this point is old Matt Eberflus has got this. They're going to have to rely on his defense being able to do takeaways to keep them in the games or to keep them closer, maybe even to win. And you can't rely on takeaways in the NFL. It's good when it happens, and it's always a plus for you, but And on the other side of the ball, Clayton Adams, the new offensive coordinator or the offensive coordinator, he says he's okay. He's not real concerned, but I'll tell you what, they got a kid out there. I think he's going to be the left tackle, Tyler Booker. Good kid, but do you want a rookie protecting the blind side? I don't. That's me personally. They got the wide receivers. The running game is suspect. I kind of compare it to last year's Raiders running game. We got guys that we call running back, and we know when we hand them the ball, their legs are going to be churning. But so very curious to see what's going to happen with the Cowboys. I think the Cowboy Nation is going to be in for another disappointing and long season.
Yeah, it's one of those things. The Cowboys are, I think, in all sports, the closest I could get would be George Steinbrenner when he ran the Yankees. In terms of a lot of these owners, and again, you brought up the GM, and I'll even throw GMs into this, but Jerry Jones, he's almost like the guy who wants the heat. He wants the attention, and I know that's obvious, but in terms of ownership of any professional sport, generally these owners, they might want to be obviously in control, but they don't want to be seen, especially in negative situations. Jerry Jones is the opposite, and we've seen it with this negotiation. Everything that's come out, Jerry Jones, a month ago when training camp started, the biggest question was Micah Parsons. Is he going to sign? And Jerry Jones's quote was, well, just because I sign him doesn't mean he's going to play. We made Dak the highest paid quarterback and he only played 6 games. Like, Jerry, like no one is saying you are technically wrong, but no one also has a gun to your head. I mean, it's training camp, press conference, say the vanilla answer and move on. But he can't do that. Even like 2 weeks later, he said, look, we're a soap opera. If people aren't talking about us, I got to do something to make us talk about. And look, if you want to be the number one or a top 5 Forbes valued franchise, then Jerry Jones is going to get you there. If you want to win Super Bowls and harken back to the early days of the Jerry Jones, he's going to need to essentially fade into the background. And as you said, they need to bring in a general manager, because as much as it's Jerry Jones not wanting to bring a general manager in, I think it's almost even more. I don't think any general manager wants to touch that job at the time football.
Very good point.
Salary. I mean, I'm sure the salary is great, and I'm sure the office is cool. And, if it goes well, technically you can put it on your resume, but no one believes you're the person making the calls. And I say all that as an NFL fan. And now, if you'll humor me, it's time for Brandon, the Eagle fan, to give my opinion on this. I want everyone to stop talking badly about the greatest general manager that professional sports have ever seen. We've had 5,000 years of existence as a race, or not as a race, as a species. And we were so lucky to be born the same time watching the mastermind that is Jerry Jones work his magic. I am so grateful that they decided to pay Dak Prescott and Deron Bland over a 26-year-old generational talent. But Jerry Jones is a genius, and we all just have to tip our cap, pay for the star, watch the Netflix stock, and act accordingly. Personally, I hope Jerry Jones lives for another 150 years. Not just because I am a sympathetic human being, but I want to see this end gloriously. And it might take 150 years for Jerry Jones to win another Super Bowl. But I want to see it, darn it. And as an Eagle fan, I feel like that is very, very big of me. So with that being said, obviously, very, very tongue in cheek, for maybe some of our, if you're listening the first time and you're not familiar with my sarcasm, that's what that was. But anyways, we are of course now going to look ahead to the game previews. And again, if you are new here, the Thursday game, we kind of just leave alone. It's going to come out. This will come out later. And we're also going to have to shelve the Friday night game, the Chargers and Chiefs. Again, it may be out by Friday. It may not. Again, there's no point in putting the effort towards it if I can't guarantee we'll have this out. All the Sunday games, or at least 8 of the Sunday games, will be previewed here. So I will take this moment to just kind of slowly gloss over my expectations for the Eagles, as of course they are, as defending Super Bowl champs, will get your season started on Thursday to raise the banner in front of Jerry's boys, not Micah Parsons. But anyways, the Eagles are 8-point favorites against the Cowboys. That's a big number. Cowboys have a lot of issues, but 8 points in the first week, that's bet at your own risk. That's all I'll say there. Overall for the Eagles, I think expectations have to be, I mean, they're as high as humanly possible. I think every Eagle fan expects at the very least a conference championship game appearance. But I believe we are the best team in the NFC. Micah Parsons gets healthy. I think the Packers are number 2. I think the NFC North is a very intriguing division, and I think we might see probably the second best team emerge from that division, whether it is the Lions, whether it is the Packers, things like that. But I think overall for the Eagles, the sky is the limit. They did lose a couple impact players on the defensive side of the ball, but the youth still reigns supreme. And I do believe Jahad Campbell next to Zach Bond. Wow, that's going to be another issue. We look back and go, man, y'all let Jahad Campbell fall to the Eagles at 31, but we'll see how that is going forward. So no Eagles Cowboys preview, no Chargers Chiefs preview. Of course, the Chargers Chiefs game will be in Brazil, and I think it's on YouTube. So
Correct.
I don't figure out how to watch that. You're watching us here. I don't know how you're going to watch the NFL, but I don't even know how I'm going to do that on YouTube, but hopefully it's free for us. But anyways, time to dive into the games on Sunday. One of my favorite days on the sporting calendar, that first Sunday of full NFL slate. Let's get it started with the game everyone is talking about. No, not really, but Raider Jim will.
It's like,
yeah. Now you're like, wait, did we change the schedule?
even I'm not talking about it.
Yeah, he's a professional, so he will talk about it. But we're going to start in the AFC West. Of course, it will be the Las Vegas Raiders. They're heading across country to face the New England Patriots. Patriots are going to be 3-point favorites here. The over-under is 43.5. In terms of the money line, I added this to the sheet, so I'll throw those in there. The Raiders plus 135, New England minus 160. Nobody talks Raider football on this podcast before Raider Jim does. So, Mr. Martinez, the floor is yours.
Yeah, everybody keep in mind one thing, and maybe there's still just a few people who don't realize this. The morning lines, if you will, to use the horse racing vernacular that I can't get out of my brain, the opening lines for these games are set when the schedule comes out.
Mm-hmm.
The odds are there is no team that is going to be fielding the same guys when the season ended and when the season starts. This is all crap shooting. So, you take what you get. Of course, this is kind of an interesting game for me and actually for the New England fan base, because you have Pete Carroll, Mike Vrabel, first time that they're coaching these new teams, and Both teams went 4-13 last year. So I don't know. It's the battle of some sort, but I just don't know what the battle is. But 4-13, somebody's going to come out feeling a little bit better than they ended the season last year. Now, why do I think the Raiders can cover? I think the Raiders can cover the 3 for sure. And that is going to be strictly because of, and I never thought I'd say this, but I think defensively, that's how they're going to stay in this game. Wouldn't have said that last year, the year before that, and I can go back 16 years before that, and I wouldn't have said it. But I think they have made some improvements on the defensive side of the ball. I like Jeremy Chin playing strong safety. I like Max Crosby, of course, and he's healthy this year. Got rid of a few guys, but they brought in, they've got Devin White that's going to be one of our outside linebackers. Cornerback, Q Blue Kelly. We'll see what he does out there. And Eric Stokes. I do like Eric Stokes in the playing the corner very, very much. We'll see. Thomas Booker the fourth is going to be our other defensive tackle. And I think they're going to have enough, and they're going to have to be really stout up front and in the box, because the best chance that New England has is to ground and pound control the running game. They've got to do that. And I don't know that they can control this Raider front line this year. We'll see. It's going to be a little bit different. Other side on the ball, or for the other side of the ball for the Patriots, Drake May. I think he's going to have a great second year for the Patriots. He's got, like I say, Coach Vrabel out there, and no, he's kind of like a Pete Carroll when it comes down to giving the speeches and keeping everybody motivated. Let's go. Let's put it all, leave it on the field. He also has pretty good targets. He's got Demario Davis and he's got Stephon Diggs. But outside of that, it's kind of undetermined who their number 3 wide receiver is. So not that the Raiders secondary is anything to worry about the last several years, but if they end up having a strong secondary and they need to bring out that third guy, don't know what's going to happen. On the negative, if you're a Patriot fan, you have got a new center, you've got a new left tackle, you've got a new left guard. And again, like I said about Dak Prescott over in Dallas, do you really want that young of an offensive line protecting the blind side of your quarterback? I think that could be detrimental to this team. And that's why they may not be able to put it up as much, because they're going to have to rely on that running game. So give me the Raiders to cover this one at 3. Give me half a point. Give me 2.5. I'll take it. But give me the Raiders. And I think the over-under 43.5, not going to be a big scoring game. This is going to be 21-17 at best. Raiders on top, win by 4. Keep it under 43.5. We got a winner.
Yeah, I agree with the under there. I think 2 offenses that maybe, one of these offenses maybe by December will have, maybe surprise some people, but I think both of these offenses is going to take some time. You will not find a bigger Aston Genty fan besides myself. I mean, watching him at Boise, was a treat. And then to see him go to Vegas, which I think is a great fit for him, in what they want to do. Not only do I like that about the Raiders team, look, I'll put my bias out there. I'm a huge USC fan, so you can very easily connect the dot where I'm going next. I love Pete Carroll. I think Pete Carroll can come in, and I think one of the most overused phrases is change of culture in football. I think it's used way too much, and maybe sometimes it is true, but a lot of times it's no, they just got better players in, or the coach wasn't that dysfunctional. He was a little more simplistic. But I really do believe, in no shade towards Antonio Pierce or anyone who has come before Pete. But I mean, going all the way back, maybe Callahan a bit, but going all the way back to Gruden 1.0, it's been a while since the Raiders really had that, not necessarily commanding, but everybody knew who was steering the ship. And it is Pete Carroll. I think the Raiders are going to be a surprising team this year. I think they are a possible playoff team if the Chargers struggle. I think there's probably one playoff spot in the AFC West outside of Kansas City, and you got two teams that really feel good about it, and then the Raiders. But I really like the Raiders this year. And in this one, I think this is a perfect opportunity. You mentioned Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel is an incredible coach. Maybe at this moment, he may be a better in-game coach than Pete Carroll. I'm not sure. Possibly you can have that argument. But at the end of the day, this is his first run with the Patriots. And I understand it's the same thing for Pete Carroll, but Pete Carroll he's been in the game a lot longer than Mike Vrabel. I think the experience comes into play there. And the other side of the timing of this, we talk about, oh, it's a West Coast team. And I know Vegas technically is in West Coast, but it's Pacific time zone going cross country. But if you're a Pacific time zone team and you're going across country, this is the best time. You didn't have anything last Sunday. If you want to show up on Tuesday, you can show up on Tuesday. Now, again, I'm not sure how the itinerary goes, but it's not the normal week 8 where you had a week 7 game to where it ended at whatever time on Sunday, get the guys home. You could have, ran a little bit of training camp or the last couple practices out in Boston or Foxborough, whatever you want to call it. I really do like the Raiders. And this might be the only time you don't see me buy a half a point on a 3-point spread because I'm going money line here. I really like the Raiders to win this game. I think they come in. Last year, we saw the Raiders take down the Ravens, and it wasn't week 1, but it was early on. But we did see the Patriots take down Cincinnati. I think this is kind of the same game that's going to now, even though the Patriots don't have the same expectations Cincinnati did last year. But I think this is a game that makes everyone go, oh, that's right. Pete Carroll can still coach. The Raiders are a very good defense, at least on paper. You mentioned Devin White. I've been watching Devin White since he was at LSU, and I firmly believe if that man can stay healthy, he is an all-pro linebacker, but that, unfortunately, is a very big if. This is like year 7 of Devin. Eagles signed him last year, and he couldn't stay healthy, and Zach Bond took his spot. So I really do want to see Devin White do well. If he can stay healthy, I think everyone's happy there. Give me the Raiders plus 135 and the under 43.5. Yeah, if this game turns into 31-28, 31-24, I don't think the Raiders have the offensive firepower to do that, but I also don't see New England having the offensive firepower to turn it into a shootout. As you mentioned, both these teams want to turn this into a 6-8 possession game. Both sides run the ball, pound the rock, get out of there with a win. I think that's both teams' mantras going into it. Pound the under. Staying in the AFC West, it is going to be the Tennessee Titans heading to Mile High to face year 2 of Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos. The Broncos are going to be 8-point favorites with the over-under sitting at 42.5. The money line is plus 320 for Tennessee, minus 430 for the home team Broncos. Raider Jim, this is your jurisdiction. Your thoughts. Tennessee at Denver.
Watch out for Denver. They're a dangerous group of guys. Coach Payton finally got things clicking with Bo Nix as the season went along last year, and they made some things happen. And watch out because they're going to come out of the gate and make things happen. And it's a shame because I like Cam Ward. I want to see Cam Ward succeed. I would love to see Cam Ward go out and get a win on opening day. They're not going to travel into Denver, though, and have that happen. The defense on Denver, believe it or not, we can talk about Bo Nix. We can talk about how good he was last year and how that 1 year, the rookie year under his belt and coming back in again. Wow, not bad at all. He's got a couple weapons out there. He's got Marvin Mims Jr. he can throw to. He's got Cortland Sutton on the other side. And he's got J.K. Dobbins. That's not a bad cast of characters to have on your side of the ball. But then you go to the defense, and they have Talanoa Hufanga playing safety. They've got Zach Allen at defensive end. They've got DJ Jones playing nose tackle. They have got they got Patrick Surtain the second playing, cornerback. Dre Greenlaw, the inside linebacker. This is a solid defense, and I think that they're just going to stifle Tennessee, no problem. This one is you've got plus 320 for Tennessee, minus 430 for Denver. You've got Denver -8. I will say I think Tennessee covers the 8. I can see it being a 6.5, 7 point, 6 to 7 point game. I don't think Denver's going to get the 8, but 42.5, this isn't going to be a shootout. So let's just call it under. Give me half a point. Give me under 43 on that one. But this is Denver to start out 1-0 in the West.
Yeah, I am like you. I think Cam Ward mentally in between the ears, he may be one of the most down to earth or at least grounded quarterbacks we've seen come
I
out.
agree.
It's the quotes that come out of there. And again, it's quotes. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that, I know this guy intimately or anything like that. But the quotes that come out, everything I hear about him keeping the team after practice, I I don't know about on the field stuff. It's if you're the number one overall pick and it doesn't work out, that just means you're like the 40th best quarterback in the world at that moment. It doesn't mean you suck. It doesn't mean you're a terrible football player. And trust me, I've said it about, but at the end of the day, it just means that you weren't elite enough. I don't know if Cam Ward is going to be able to translate his talent from the college level to the NFL level. But I believe that if he keeps the same mentality that he has had, it's going to come. Now, the problem is, I just kind of did a little bit of a thought exercise. I went, okay, besides Will Levis and Cam Ward, I tried to name one other Tennessee Titan. And I got to Traylon Burks, but I believe he was cut a few weeks ago. After getting hurt, he may have came back on the IR. I'm not sure. I did just Google them. So I have Johnny Hecker. He's a punter, and I have Tony Pollard. Everyone else, for the most part, Calvin Ridley is there as well. But this is a team that is in full-fledged rebuild mode. Yeah, Joey Sly. But again, so I know the punter, the kicker. That's what I got. That should tell you all that you need to know about Tennessee. And with that being said, even with that mentality, I don't think Cam Ward is good enough to kind of take the team on his back and carry them across the line. Now, on Denver's side, Bo Nix, Sean Payton, it was the marriage that nobody thought was going to work, and now it may be the blueprint. It's pretty incredible. Bo Nix really did surprise me, and I think a lot of people. However, we saw 3 quarterbacks be really good last year as rookies. There is no chance all 3 of these guys continue to progress the way we expected. Okay. I don't know if Jaden Daniels regresses. I don't know if Bo Nix regresses. I don't know if some of the others regress. If you want to throw Caleb Williams in there, although he didn't have a great year.
Right.
Say McCarthy, it's his first year. But my big question is, was last year for Bo Nix a fluke? And I'm just asking questions. Don't jump down my throat, Broncos fans. I'm not saying I know the answer, but I do think we need to ask that question. 8 points this early. I like Tennessee to cover. This is just a backdoor opportunity. Raider Jim talked a lot about the defense of the Broncos. My big worry are turnovers from Tennessee. That could get things out of control, and Tennessee kind of puts themselves into a hole. But if they can keep this to within a 10-point game, pretty much going throughout, I think they can get a backdoor cover. My only question would be the timing of when you're going to get down to 7, because most coaches, down 10 with a minute and a half left aren't going to kick a field goal to cover the spread. So that would be my concern. I do like the under here. Again, bad offense with Tennessee, really good defense with Denver. And I don't think Sean Payton's really bringing everything out to put on film this early against a very below average Tennessee Titan defense. I think he feels he can beat this team with vanilla packages. I have this as a 20-16 game. I think it will look a lot closer than it actually is, but I do think Tennessee covers. And I normally throw this caveat out before we get into this. Raider Jim kind of touched on it. These week ones, they're a crapshoot. I personally do not bet week one. It usually takes me a couple weeks. I just like to get the lay of the land, so I just want to throw that caveat out there. Although I did break my rule. I already have a bet in. It's not for any of our full game previews. It's from some of the others that we're going to mention, and I'll get to that momentarily. But so I did break my rule, so I will have one in, but I'll let you know what that is. So just so no one thinks that they're riding with me, I'm just kind of putting my thoughts out there. But moving on to the NFC East side of things, obviously, as I mentioned before, Philadelphia and Dallas will be on Thursday. We're not going to preview that one. So we do have one in the NFC East. It's the Giants heading to Washington to face the Commanders. Commanders going to be 5.5-point favorites. Over under sits at 45.5. The money line plus 220 for the Giants, minus 270 for the Commanders. This is my jurisdiction, so I'll get this one rolling. Obviously, this kind of piggybacks on to what I talked about with one of these quarterbacks regressing a bit, very similar to what we saw at a CJ Stroud last year. Which one is it going to be? I really do believe that it probably is not going to be Jaden Daniels, as much as the Eagle fan in me hopes that I could point and laugh and go, ha ha, they got your hopes up for 1 year and now he's a bust. I don't think that's the case. I hesitantly like what the Giants are putting together. I don't like it as an Eagles fan, but I like Jackson Dart. I don't think he's going to start, which is good. But I do think going forward, there's something there. I really, really like Abdul Carter. Again, that's going to be something I have to deal with twice a year on the defensive side for the Giants. With that being said, it's kind of like it looks nice, but or it's like when you're looking at an empty lot, like, oh, the possibilities are endless. But I'm not going to bring anyone here right now. Like there's a lot of building that needs to be done. I like Washington to cover the 5.5 here. And especially that Terry McLaurin is now, that's all done and dusted, although I don't think that ever was getting near to a nuclear auction, but he is there. He is paid. And I really do think that Washington, big question mark, Deebo Samuel. Are we going to see Deebo Samuel of 2021, 2022? Or are we going to be wondering who that man is wearing his jersey? I still think even with those question marks, Washington covers 5.5. I think we stay under 45.5. I just think the Giants, way too many question marks. I really like Brian Daboll. I think he's probably going to get fired this year. And I hope he gets a job in the AFC. But I think he's a fantastic coach who got a raw deal. He got one really good year out of Daniel Jones, and that should be worth something. Darn it. But anyway, Raider Jim, your thoughts, Giants at Commanders.
Yeah, let's not get lulled into the last couple 3 seasons and look and say, hey, it's the New York Giants. This is a shoo-in to bet against them. I wouldn't bet against them in this game either. I think, like you, right out the gate, I'll say, I think they're going to cover this one, no problem. You look at the quarterbacks, and I know you're thinking, yeah, but he's old, and the other guy's old. But guess what? You do have Jackson Dart in between those two guys. But what a luxury to have a Jameis Winston as your backup. That's not a bad thing. I mean, even if you look on the Washington side of the fence, Jaden Daniels goes down, Marcus Mariota. Marcus Mariota came in and did some things for the Raiders every now and then when he was thrown in, because of injuries, and he could perform. He's one of those guys. That's what they've got there with Jameis Winston. He has to step in. You don't have anything to worry about. You're going to make some plays. But I think that the offense is going to be a little better. I'm with you. I can't wait to see how Abdul Carter really plays out. I'm surprised the depth charts I'm looking at are from CBS Sports. They don't have him starting. They actually have him as rotating in and out, coming in, I don't know if certain what situations they're going to put him in, but I assure you he is going to make some noise and disrupt some people. And I I agree. I would hate to face that 2 times a year because it's just gonna get worse after this year and for the next 5 years after that. He's Khalil Mack all over again. The guy just keeps coming back, and he's annoying. He's just an annoyance to everybody. But do I think that the Giants will win? No, I wouldn't be surprised if they do, but I just think that they've got enough to cover this home game spread of 5.5. And again, as we have said for probably the third time already, this was set way back when, not in the last couple weeks or so. So I do like what's going to happen. That's going to be a fun game to watch. Kind of interested. It's actually on my radar because I want to see, do the Giants show just a little bit of improvement? And it's real easy to improve on what they had. So I think we're going to see that. Give me, let's see, let me make sure I got it. Give me the Giants to cover at 5.5. Give me a half a point. I'll take a full 6 on that. But the over under 45.5, I think it's going to go under. It's not going to be a shootout.
Yeah. And it's a very, very tough situation again for Brian Dable, but he has luckily been given time to put things together. And or at least he's been given time to continue to try to put things together. We'll see if he does take a step forward. Moving on to the actual probably game of the week. It is Baltimore heading to Buffalo. Baltimore, and I also did want to say, just in case people are listening to this later in the week and they're scratching their heads, we are recording on the 2nd of September. It is Tuesday, so it's a little earlier than we normally do. But Thursday I'm going to be, ready for the game. Tomorrow we're doing horse racing. So the lines might be a little skewed. If you are a little confused, that's why, again, as of Tuesday, these are the lines per Bovada. So with that being said, Baltimore at Buffalo, the Ravens are going to be 1-point favorites. Again, that could very well flip by the time the game starts. Who knows? But essentially a pick 'em, and the over-under sits at 50.5. The money line, Baltimore -115, Buffalo -105. Raider Jim, I'll give you the first bite at the apple. Baltimore, or of Sunday Night Football, Baltimore at Buffalo.
This is getting to be one of those rivalries, if you will, where people are going to stick with the script because eventually it's going to happen. 2 out of 3, 3 out of 5, 4 out of 7, 7 out, it's that thing. But here's what's happened. What is Lamar Jackson's history against Buffalo? He's won 1 time. He's lost 3 times. He's had 6 turnovers, including 4 interceptions and 2 fumbles, and he averages 179 yards passing per game. But he's only won once, and he's not going to win this time. And it's a money line game. You're just going to bet money line on this one. Give me Buffalo all day long on this one. I don't think it's even going to be close. I think that they are going to get out of they're going to be that again, the horse racing. I can't get it out of my head. Buffalo's going to come out of the gate fast. They're going to build a lead, and then they're just going to keep pace and keep Baltimore at bay. I won't be surprised if they win by 4 to 6 points. By one of the harder stadiums to go in and win. You don't go into their house and beat them. They're not going to go into their house and beat them this time either. Great Sunday night game. If I have to go from summer to fall, might as well sit there and watch a game like this because that makes it a little easier for me to transition. I just don't see where Buffalo's got enough weaknesses to really be concerned about losing this one.
Yeah, this was a weird because I mean the odds makers are telling me that if we have a neutral site, Buffalo, Baltimore, that Baltimore's 4-point favorites. That's crazy to me. Because the normal 3 points for being at home.
Yes.
And now maybe you could say somewhat devil's advocate. Oh, well, it's September, Buffalo in September, at least weather-wise, blah, blah, blah. Now I get that. Trust me, if you're a team, you'd much rather face or go to Buffalo in September than November or December. I understand that. But Baltimore is one of the habitual slow starters In I mean, really, the whole of the NFC North is essentially slow starters outside of the Steelers are fast starters, and everyone else, it seems like Steelers get out 5-1, everyone else 2-4, and then the water eventually evens out. Baltimore, again, I brought it up earlier. They went down to the Raiders early last year at home.
Yep.
I think they are going to struggle early on. I think, as you mentioned, Lamar Jackson, it might take him a few, whatever, couple drives, maybe a couple game or two to really get focused, to get rolling. I like Buffalo here on the money line. Again, you kind of have to go money line unless you're a big believer in 1.5 or if it'll get that hook. But right now, I mean, it's 1 point. Like, enjoy your push, I guess. But I like Buffalo. I just think that's the pick that needs to be made. It's almost one of those, it's too obvious. I almost want to go the opposite way, the gambler overthinker in me, but I do like Buffalo and I do like the over. Normally I would take the under, especially in a game 50.5. However, I do think both of these offenses are just both trained to just eventually get big plays and kind of open things up. I'd be more hesitant on the over-under, but for the sake of the podcast, I will go over just because I did go under the first 3, and there's a lot of unders on my card, so I wanted to even that out. But I would not be surprised if we do stay under, because one really big kind of caveat is these are two teams that I think both are expecting to meet in the playoffs, so you don't want to put too much offensively on film. So maybe that's a point towards the under. So I'm not really making the greatest over case, but I do like Buffalo in this one. I think it's going to be a great Sunday night game. And I'm excited to see the continuation. I mean, these two are, I'm trying to think, like, it's almost like the Rockets and the Jazz back in the day fighting to see who can lose to Michael Jordan. That's kind of what Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen's rivalry has boiled down to. Who can win to then lose to Patrick Mahomes in the championship game? And I know that's kind of disingenuous, but I mean, that's just how it's been, unfortunately, for those two. So Buffalo minus 105 is, I feel like, a pretty good pick on Sunday Night Football. Moving on to the NFC West, a old school rivalry. The San Francisco 49ers, they're heading to Seattle. The Niners are going to be 2.5-point favorites as they go on the road. 43.5 is our over under, minus 140 on the money line for the Niners, plus 120 for the Seahawks. Raider Jim, your thoughts? San Francisco 2.5-point favorites as they travel to Seattle.
Oh, I've got the wrong game up.
Oh, which one do you want to go to?
No, that's fine. I had for some reason I had Detroit, and I see what I did.
Next one, yeah.
Yep, I hit that. That's okay. Let's go Seattle, San Francisco. I think we said it last year, and I am not at all making sport of anybody who is injury prone. But my goodness, we said, okay, Christian McCaffrey, how many games before he's done? And my goodness, the guy is just injury prone, but you still open up and read the previews for the 49ers. And what do they say? Boy, they're strong, and Christian McCaffrey's ready to go. Easy, kids. Easy. You almost can't count on him. You can count on a few good games before he gets banged up. But how is San Francisco going to look? I think against Seattle, they're going to be okay. Seattle's defense is fair. They're not excellent. They're not going to be excellent this year, and that's going to play to the advantage of the 49ers. Of course, I wiped out the entire line here. So we have, what is
San Francisco 2.5-point favorites. The over under is 43.5.
2.5, 43.5. Yeah, you know what? I think definitely San Francisco is going to cover on this one. They got a defense that's coming in fairly strong. Seattle's got some regrouping to do. They get Sam Darnold back there, which is not a bad guy to have. He's a good guy. He's been around, and he's definitely proven himself throughout his career. But this is a new setting, new surroundings. I don't think he's going to have success game one right out the gate. Give it to, week 3, week 4, and they start getting a little more in sync with their cadence and ability to get everything out there and make it click. Give me the 49ers to take this one, and I'm sorry, the over-under again was?
43.5.
43.5. Yeah, and I would go under on this one. I don't see it being a shootout. I know if it's raining like it was, if it starts to rain just a little bit and that field's slippery, we're gonna be lucky if we see 35 points in this one.
Yeah, I mean, I could even be the guy with San Francisco's offense. Obviously, the injury issue will always be kind of a dark cloud, or, a cloud at least over Christian McCaffrey and the Niners. I wonder if the bigger question mark is the Brock. They have put their trailer to the Brock Purdy wagon, and I'm not saying that's the wrong decision, but he seems to me that it's a very easy correlation when you look and that team is fully healthy. Brock Purdy looks really good. That team is not healthy. Brock Purdy does not. And again, that's where we go back to the injury issue. So, it's easy for me to say, oh, well, as long as everyone's healthy, Brock Purdy will be fine. Like, you could say that for pretty much any quarterback. But I feel like for Brock Purdy, it seems to be magnified. And maybe it is just because it is Christian McCaffrey. Um, with that being said, though, I do like San Francisco, and you could also make the case that, look, this is probably the healthiest Christian McCaffrey is going to be all season is in this game. So that is something to keep in mind. And again, we don't ever wish injury upon anybody, but when we're talking about gambling, we're talking about betting angles, injuries are a top 3 angle that you need to take into account. But I do like San Francisco. I mean, I love a -2.5 point spread. Come on now, give me a last second field goal and everyone's happy. And then I am going to go over, but this is just another one. I do think we could see San Francisco maybe pull away late, and 24-20 gets me home and not crazy. So I will go over there, but again, I don't feel good about any of these picks this early, but I would kind of say the spread side of things would make me feel a lot more comfortable than the over under. And again, Raider Jim, you mentioned, I mean, when it comes to Seattle, you just kind of have to expect that you're going to have at least 15 to 20 minutes of rain minimum at some point. That's probably the best way to go about it. So that could also keep it under, especially if we're right on that edge going forward. But, and the other part of it too, just throwing it out there, and this isn't necessarily for this game, but for others is, I mean, the ability of kickers to make 55-yard field goals look like chip shots. It might start to affect some of these over-under numbers, because it does get a little crazy when you're like, oh, they just got over midfield, and it's like, oh, they're kicking it. Oh, wow, he could have made that from 5 yards more. So that might need to change upstairs, but not quite yet. But moving on to the next one, Raider Jim wanted to get to this one so badly. It is the Detroit Lions at the Green Bay Packers. This is probably the second best game, at least on paper, of the weekend. Green Bay is going to be 2.5-point favorites at home. The over-under is 47 on the money line side of things. You have the Lions at +120 and the Green Bay Packers -140. Raider Jim, your thoughts, Lions at Pack?
Yeah, again, what do I say? If it's on the internet, it must be true. If somebody wrote it down, it must be true. All the talk that has come out about coaching changes, personnel changes, all the changes for Detroit. Uh-oh, watch out. They're going to tank this year. Maybe not tank isn't the word that was used, but basically everybody is saying the Lions you saw last year aren't going to be the Lions you see this year. Let me tell you one thing that's going to be the difference maker on Sunday night or Sunday this weekend. Aiden Hutchinson is going to be back for Detroit. So they're not going to be missing a step on the defensive side of the ball. That kid was the defensive player of the year last year until he got hurt. Guess what? He's not hurt now. He's firing on all cylinders. He's going to make life miserable. On the other side of the ball, here's what you got. Micah Parsons is already listed as questionable for week 1. So he may not even make an appearance against Minnesota. The other thing you have on the defensive side of the ball for the Packers, Xavier McKinney, slightly banged up, questionable. Nate Hobbs, right cornerback, slightly banged up, questionable. And like I said, Micah Parsons, and even strong safety, Zane Anderson, the second round or the second string strong safety for Green Bay, questionable because of injury. They are just banged up. You don't want a banged up secondary when you are going against Jared Goff. That just doesn't play well for anybody. On the other side, as far as injuries go, they do have a couple areas. They've got Taylor Decker, the left tackle, and they've got Graham Glasgow, the center. Little banged up, but they're going to play. But, they just put it down that you may not be 100%. But on that defensive side of the ball, left cornerback, Terrion Arnold, he's the only one that is listed as probably questionable, a little bit of a strained hamstring. But other than that, they're looking pretty healthy. Too much health, too much firepower. Watch the Lions. They're going to come out. They're probably got so much stuff posted up on their board right now saying, read that before you go out and take the field. Denver covers 2.5, no problem where I'm sitting. And over under 47, I think it's going to go over 47 too, because I think Detroit's just going to come out and put on a show.
Yeah, I think this is a situation where I'm very, very surprised that this line is the way it is. I don't know if this is a reaction to the Micah Parsons trade. Um, but and look, I understand Lambeau, the home team gets 3 points. I get that. Um, but it's Lambeau in September. And yeah, a lot of the mystique of Lambeau is the frozen tundra. And unless I'm missing something, it's not going to be frozen. Probably even going to be a tundra at that point. It's probably going to be actually pretty beautiful in Green Bay, Wisconsin. So that might be a little bit of something that you kind of take out of it in terms of the home field. Obviously, you are going to have the raucous crowd. This isn't a night game or a standalone game either. So, this is, I feel, a Detroit money line game. I think Detroit wins this game. And I think Detroit also understands that with everything that happened the last week or so, they need to kind of put their flag in the NFC North, at least early, and say, look, we still run this place. Because it would not be ideal. There are going to be a lot of people, the Lions haters, that are going to remind the Lions fans about their divisional performance, where they just couldn't do anything against the Commanders. Packers, they're kind of the blue chippers of the NFC North. Detroit, I think, kind of wants to fully plant their flag in the NFC North this year, and I think this goes a long way towards doing it. You're not going to talk. I mean, this might be the best coaching matchup in all of football this weekend. Two very different styles, but I can't wait to see how this shakes out. But give me Detroit plus 120. And I'm like you. I see the over here. I think both of these teams, I don't want to say are gonna treat this as a playoff game, but I think they're gonna treat this a lot more importantly than most week one teams will approach theirs. So I like the over here. And this is one that, you just kind of sit back and watch and enjoy, because I think this probably might be the best game of the week. A lot on the line here. Even Baltimore Buffalo, it's an inter-conference game, but it's not a divisional game. This is a divisional game in what I believe is the most competitive division in all of football. So that's something to keep an eye on. And that's also a perfect segue into the other side of this division, another NFC North matchup. It is Monday Night Football. The Minnesota Vikings, 1.5-point favorites at the Chicago Bears. The over-under is going to be 44, and Minnesota will be minus 125 on the money line, and Chicago plus 105 on the money line. Raider Jim, your thoughts for our Monday night showdown in Chicago? Oh, I think you're muted. Not yet. Nope. Still waiting. I think he's got to get the mic back on. Uh-oh. Think that might be it for Raider Jim. I will give my thoughts real quick. But I do think that Chicago has room to improve. I love their wide receiver room. I think DJ Moore, Roma Dunze, and I believe it's Luther Burden or Luther Bird, it's something, but Luther Burden. Um, I think that's a fantastic wide receiver room. Obviously, the quarterback is always going to be a bit of a question mark. Caleb Williams is, I think, a walking question mark, unfortunately, but I think Ben Johnson coming in is the difference for the Bears. I think they have a better season than last year. I think they are a lot more competitive in the division. I don't think we're going to see situations where like a Hail Mary takes this team out. I think that the Bears do start to move in the right direction. I have a lot of question marks about JJ McCarthy. I think JJ McCarthy may very well be very, very good. And I think I hear you over there, Raider Jim. So I think you are good. Yep. Perfect.
Great.
So perfect. I think there are a lot of question marks for Minnesota. Obviously, Kevin O'Connell might be behind Andy Reid. He's my number two in terms of coach. So, with that being said, I like Chicago plus 105 on the money line. I was very high on Caleb Williams last year because so many people were down on him. And it's not the USC thing because I did not like him at USC. His last year at USC made me ugh. Anyways, so that's not the bias that comes out of it, but I just think Chicago moving in the right direction, big opportunity for them to kind of make their big move on Monday Night Football, bring down a beatable Vikings team. I do think we have to stay under though for Chicago to win this game. The big difference is, or the big issue is going to be the Chicago defense. Are they able to do enough? Um, we shall see two defenses that I think need to kind of get back on track after last year. More so for Chicago. But Raider Jim, your thoughts? Excuse me. Minnesota at Chicago on Monday night.
Yeah, I kind of am thinking about this one like you are. We finally get it's a year in the making. We finally get the game we were supposed to have last year. JJ McCarthy against Caleb Williams. Well, sometimes Mother Nature gets in the way and injuries happen, and JJ had to kind of miss that party last year. But now it's going to happen. And I'm with you. Going into this, seeing Minnesota at 1.5, I thought, okay, I can see that. Even though it's that thing where what you touched on a few games back. So what the handicappers are telling us is Minnesota's actually 4.5 points better than Chicago because we're not going to give Chicago the 3 points, give them the 3 points like they should be because they're hosting. Now, why is Minnesota going to not win this game? Because Chicago, I think their defense is going to be just enough. And on the other side of the ball, JJ McCarthy, he's got a couple problems out there. And the couple problems are CJ Ham and Justin Jefferson are banged up. They are not 100%. That's two of your biggest weapons. If you don't have them and you're playing against an okay Chicago defense, then oh my goodness, anything can happen. Now, on the other side of that statement, let me tell you this: left cornerback Jalen Johnson for the Bears, Kyler Gordon, slot cornerback for the Bears, and weak side linebacker Tremaine Edmonds, all dinged up a little bit. So it could just be, who's going to be able to limp the fastest to catch a guy or to get past somebody. But I really think in this one, I like the way Chicago's going to come out, play at home, make a point right out of the gate. And I think Caleb Williams is going to have a much better season than he did last year. Not that he had anything to hang his head about, but I think he's got that year of maturity and experience under him. And I think we're going to see a good game from the Bears. I like the Bears on the money line on this one. And I'm with you, though. It's got to stay under.
Yeah, it's and I'll throw one more issue for JJ McCarthy out there. And this is a lot more definite. Jordan Addison suspended the first 3 games. That's going to, yeah, that's going to call, especially if you don't have Justin Jefferson. That's going to be an issue going forward, or at least for the first 3 games. I believe that was actually, you know what? I'm not going to say what I don't know for sure. So he's suspended 3 games. Google it. I'm not going to right now. I don't want to say anything that is wrong, which I have a tendency to do, believe it or not. Anyways. Moving on to the final game we are going to preview. And look, I'll be honest, I took some liberties when I put these together. When I get the 8 best outside of our divisions, I'm supposed to look for the best games. And with all due respect to the Buccaneers and Falcons fans, look, your game is more important than the next game I'm going to talk about. But you know what? Sometimes we just want to have a little bit of fun. The Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be 2.5 point favorites as they head to New York in the Aaron Rodgers Bowl. The over-under 38.5. And we have Pittsburgh minus 150 on the money line, plus 130 for the Jets. Look, again, this is fully me just trying to find a way to sneak something in on Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers now in Pittsburgh, heading to New York. Oh, this is going to be a circus. Raider Jim, your thoughts? Pittsburgh at the Jets.
Here it is. I'm going to cut to the chase. New York wins this game. No problem. They are going to be better than they were last year. Justin Fields, it's really interesting, isn't it? Justin Fields, where was he playing quarterback last year? It's like they just did the big switcheroo, and you don't see that too often, but we're seeing the big switcheroo. Justin Fields knows what he's up against, and again, the defense also for the Steelers knows what they're up against. But I think that Justin Fields is going to be able to get out there and do just enough to put just enough points on the board. More importantly, I think it's going to be the Jets defense, not the Steeler defense that everybody's talking about come Monday. I think they're going to go out there. They're going to play a solid game. They're going to get to the old man, and they're going to make him regret that he just didn't stay in his tent and just call it a career. Don't even go. Please just don't go into the announcer booth. Just stay in your tent. Oh, go. But no, I don't think that there's enough there. It's going to take a lot more than old Mr. TJ Watt to get out there and turn this one around. So, Amy, on this one, Pittsburgh is minus 2.5. So yeah, give me the Jets covering at 3, and I'm happy with that. Over under though, they got to keep it under.
Yeah, and I think both teams want to keep it under. I mean, Pittsburgh Jets 38.5 sounds about right. Everything Raider Jim I agree with and is correct. The reason why I'm picking Pittsburgh is because there is not a man on the sporting planet that is as vindictive and petty as Aaron Rodgers. And I am staking the fact that this is Aaron Rodgers' Super Bowl. This might be the biggest game of Aaron Rodgers' career. He gets to go into New York and, in his mind, shove it up there what. That's what his thought process is going to be. Everything he is going to give to Pittsburgh is going to be in this game. In my mind, I firmly believe I would not be surprised if he goes out, they win, and in the press conference, he goes, all right, I'm retired. See y'all later. Never see him again. I would not be surprised if he went through all this BS just for this fame, just to go into MetLife Stadium and stick it to the Jets and their fans. So that's my quote unquote angle. That's where I'm taking Pittsburgh. I think Aaron Rodgers is just, this is it. This is everything he's wanted, which is so Aaron Rodgers. But anyways, give me Pittsburgh minus 2.5. But I still do like the under because, again, as petty as he is, he's still not very good at the moment. So that's a bit of an issue. But yeah, I threw that one in there just to, have a little bit of a laugh as we wrap things up. But I did just want to mention some of the others and their lines. Arizona, they're going to be 6.5 point favorites as they head to the Big Easy. Thoughts and prayers for our colleague, Coach. It's going to be a long season. A lot of apple picking and Christmas shopping on Sundays for Coach. But the Saints going to be 6.5-point underdogs at home. That over-under is 42.5. Carolina at Jacksonville. Jacksonville going to be 3.5-point favorites. The over-under is 46. Cincinnati, they are going to be 5.5-point favorites at Cleveland. 47.5 is the over-under. Miami, 1-point favorites at Indianapolis. The over-under is 47.5. Folks, I already have a bet in on Miami money line. I cannot believe that they are not bigger favorites against Daniel Jones and a youthful Indianapolis Colts team. Anyways, Tampa Bay, 2.5-point favorites as they head to Atlanta, and the over-under is 47.5. And finally, the Houston Texans going up against the team I believe might be the NFC champions if it's not the Philadelphia Eagles, the Los Angeles Rams. Matthew Stafford health pending, of course. But the Rams are 82.5-point favorites at home in that one, and the over-under is 43.5. Raider Jim, do you have any thoughts on those?
No, I'm pretty much with you. One thing that stood out, though, as I'm watching you go through the games, if we take into account the Pittsburgh game and the Minnesota game, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the last 7 games, the visitor is favored.
Mm-hmm.
That's just wild.
And I guarantee you, I'm not going to be able to pick which ones, but at least 3 of them will probably not only cover, but they'll probably win outright. So that's just week 1. Again, we're here to give you whatever you want. I do have one final little thing just because over-unders on the wins, just for a little bit of fun. Raider Jim, I got the Raiders at 6.5 for our betting audience. What would you suggest? Over-under 6.5 wins.
Oh, Raiders win 9 this year.
There you go. I like it. I'm on the same boat. I agree. I
Just
think
like that.
I like it. That's an easy over. The Eagles on my side, threading the needle a little bit. 11-5. That is tough. I don't think anybody should bet this. But again, gun to my head for the podcast, I would say over. I think they can get to 12. But again, they play a first place schedule. It's going to be very, very difficult. But especially early on, they have a tough. I mean, they got Kansas City week 2. That's going to be a big one as well. But I do like.
And then the Rams over. The Rams right after that.
Yeah, it's a very, very, and I believe the Rams are on the road too. So those are,
and then after 2 weeks, they're going to go to Denver after that.
Yeah. So there's a lot of travel early on for the Eagles. Excuse me. Ooh. So we might, I'm not going to hit the panic button early if it doesn't go terribly well, but 11.5 is a very high bar to clear. I didn't look everyone over, but I got to imagine that is the top. But Raider Jim, your final thoughts as we wrap up the week 1 edition of the NFL Weekly.
Hard to believe it's already NFL season. Can't wait. We've got 17, 18 weeks ahead of us, and pretty soon we'll be talking about the playoffs. And my gosh, where did time go? But everybody just kind of like take inventory. Look around at your loved ones. Be happy if they're there with you. If they're not there with you, always keep them in your thoughts. Keep them in your heart. And I know you do. First and foremost, let's keep everything in perspective. These are games, college and professional. These are games. Enjoy them. Don't get crazy about it. Don't take it out on somebody when your team loses. Don't gloat if your team wins. Character and humility, important on both sides of that.
Yeah, I got you there. And kind of on the same point, I want to give a little bit of love to Arch Manning. He's had a rough weekend. And look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that, don't worry, that's the only bad game he'll ever have. But you would have thought he went up against, Tuskegee A&M at home and did that. That was the number 1 team in the country. Probably one of, if not the best defense on the road in his first real start where he's truly driving the bus. I can't believe I'm stumping for a Manning in 2025, but I really do think Arch Manning's going to be just fine. But I mean, it was pretty crazy. Like within 20 minutes of that game ending, it's like he went from, oh my gosh, he might be better than Peyton and Eli to this guy can't even play football. And again, perspective, folks. I brought up, if you don't make it in the NFL, you're still probably one of the 0.01% best football players in the world. That's pretty good. So keep everything in perspective and kind of echo what Raider Jim said. Enjoy this. It's week 1. The weather is warm. Here, hopefully wherever you are, it's a little cooler, although I doubt it. But enjoy the early part of the season. Enjoy before the holidays. Enjoy it. Raider Jim, what you got?
One more question for you. Do we see Shedeur Sanders week 1?
Oh gosh, no. No. No, and that I'm actually glad you brought that up. And if you're still listening, this might be an extra 5 minutes because I'm glad you brought that up. I understand the world we live in now is very race based, and as a white man, I'm not going to sit here and say that this is right and this is wrong, blah blah blah. However, I will say in the grand scheme of football, if you believe Kevin Stefanski is racist because Shedeur Sanders wasn't playing behind the number 1 offensive line, you need to reassess how you look at how preseason football is played. The ones play with the ones, the twos play with the twos. Shedeur Sanders has never been at the number 1 spot on that depth chart, nor should he. And race has nothing to do with it. Kevin Stefanski has a quarterback in that room that essentially is as close to a convicted R word as you can be without being technically convicted. He's still in that locker room, and guess what? Deshaun Watson is black. So miss me with all the Kevin Stefanski is racist stuff. Thank you for kind of bringing that up because that was a soapbox I had waiting. But in terms of like the actual, like, should he play? I think for everyone's sake, he is a project. I don't think we should see him until next year. Even if you run Flacco out there all year, even if you sacrifice Dylan Gabriel. But I think Shedeur Sanders is a project. He needs to work on things. I think he has what's needed. He just needs to get a little bit of humble pie and work on some things. But I don't know if you have thoughts on that.
You got it. You covered it.
Perfect. Well, thank you for teeing me up for that one. That's actually officially my final thought. But with that being said, thank you all so much for listening to this episode of the NFL Weekly here on the First Off the Bench Podcast Network. Everyone comes off the bench. We are first. It is time for you all to go wash your hands and stop hating everybody. We'll talk to y'all very soon. Take care.